everyone, welcome to my second video on this series of video tutorials on how to automatically apply for jobs on LinkedIn. In the previous video, I showcased how to set up your project, how to download the web driver to make this project work. And today I would just quickly showcase how to make two different functions. We're going to have one function to log in into LinkedIn and a second function to make the job search. So let's go to it. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is how to use the web development tools. And if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to quickly explain to you. Let's say you have your Google Chrome open. If you go to the Help tab, you're going to see something called More Tools and something called Developer Tools, which I believe you can just press F12 and you're going to have them popped up. And this is basically what allows web developers to test and debug their code. So you can see the different components that a website has. So if we go to LinkedIn, for example, and we're not logged in yet, we can find components by simply selecting an element from the page. If we click in this button over here, and we're going to find it in this part of the development tools. So for example, where you're supposed to be inputting your email or phone number, we can see that it corresponds to this component in the website. And each component has a class, it has an ID or a name, and this is basically what Selenium uses to identify each of the components of a website. So if we want to introduce our email and make it use automatically, we will basically look for that component, and then we will search it either by ID or name or placeholder, whatever we feel more convenient. So I'm just going to show you quickly how this works in practice. So if we go to our, let's just close this Chrome that is being used, actually automated, and we're just going to create our first function, and we're going to call it login LinkedIn. This is going to be, you can say that this function logs into your personal LinkedIn profile. And we close it. Okay, so what do we want to do? So the first thing that we want to do, obviously, is to make the driver go to the LinkedIn website, right? So make driver go to the LinkedIn login URL. We can open again our Chrome and we can just say, this is stopped, yeah. We can just say linkedin.com. Okay, we can easily come here, or I'm sure we can just do login and we can just copy this URL that we're going to be using. So we're just quickly going to say, okay, driver, I want you to go, which is using the driver.get function, to this URL. We can quickly test that if you want to see how the program works. Python main.py, it would open up and it will not do anything because I didn't tell it to do anything. let's just say bot.login LinkedIn. Remember to tell the program to do what you want it to do. Not here. Okay, so you could see that it popped up and it went to this login page. Okay, so I just quickly make it bigger, my screen, so you can see when it pops up. We can just do that again. And it pops up and it goes to linkedin.com. Super. So let's continue. What's the next step? Okay, so the next step that we want to do is to actually introduce our email and password. And hit enter because we want to log in. Okay, so this is where it comes the web developers tool into practice. So if we go back to Google Chrome, more tools, developer tools, and we go to linkedin.com, to that website, log in. We're gonna find by element, as I was saying before. So the first thing we have to do is to find this element. So how is this element called? So as we see, the element ID is username and the name of the element is session key. Okay, so we're just going to use that. We're going to tell our web driver, we're going to call this action login email. Driver. We wanted to find element, and as you can see, there's a lot of different types that you can find. So you can find element by its class, by its CSS selector, by ID, by name, by XPath. We're going to use here the find element by name. It should be a unique name, the same as the ID. So that will make it easier for us to find the element itself. So the name of the element is session key. So we're just going to find it by name, session key. And the next thing that we have to do, sorry for my typos. The next thing that we have to do is to clear up. And why do we do this? We do this because we need to clean the text field and enable it. So it's a way to basically tell the mouse or the automated process we are going to introduce something here. And what we want to introduce is we want to use an action called send keys from the driver, and it's basically we're just going to send whatever we have chosen as email. We're just going to use our email to send it. So this send keys is just basically going to type our email where it corresponds. And we're just going to use the same structure to use the password. So we're going to do a login password, self driver, find element by name, and in this case the name of the password element, if we look it up, it's session password. So we're going to do a find element by name, session password. We clear it so we can enable it, password, and then we send our password. And what's the next step that we need to do? Once we introduce our email, once we introduce our password, we just need to pass our, there's a typo, sorry. We just need to send our enter we need to enter, so it would enter into the website. And for that, we have to import a library called from selenium.webdriver.common.keys import keys. So this is basically a representation of the keys. So the key that we want to use for this is the key return, because it would basically make the action of sending an enter key or a return key. So we can say keys dot return. Okay, so if we put this in practice, we're gonna see that the program will introduce our email. Well, first it will go into the LinkedIn website to log in. Second will be introducing our email, it will introduce our password, and it will hit enter. Go into LinkedIn, password and email, and hit enter. Okay, so I made a typo just here. It's okay, so let's just hit it again. So we will go to LinkedIn, put our email, password, and hit enter. Super. Okay, so after we logged in with our program, the next step that we want to do is look for a job. You can create any algorithm that you want. You can basically search directly here. You could go to my network and then find people that works for specific companies. My approach, it's an algorithm that goes to the jobs section, finds these two boxes here, so one for keywords and one for the location. That's why we use that in our configuration file, and then it searches the jobs. So we're going to be doing something like machine learning engineer. We're going to say in Denmark or whatever, and then we're going to get to this page with our program. That's what our function is going to be doing. So for that, we go again into our developer tools, so we can see what type of elements we need. So we're going to start our function. We're going to call it job search. We're just going to say that this function goes to the jobs section and looks for all the jobs that matches the keywords and location. Okay, so what's the first thing that we need to do? We need to go to the jobs section. Okay, so let's just open this a bit more. If we go again and look for the element, we want to basically touch on this link right here. And there's a very good tool with Selenium that you can basically find an element by the text that is included in the link. So in this case, the text that is included in the link, it's jobs. So let's just gonna try that and see if it works. It's called jobs link. Find element by link text, and we're gonna say jobs. And automatically after it finds that, we want it to click it. So we just say jobs link dot click. Okay, so for the second part of this function, we want to, after clicking on the link of the jobs, we need to specify which job we're looking for and which location we're going to be looking that position in. So for this part, we're going to follow a similar approach as the previous function when we logged in on LinkedIn, and we're going to find out what are the text box in those two fields, so we can enter our keyword and our location in the same manner as the previous function. So if we go to LinkedIn just quickly again, and we go to jobs, we see that these are the text box that we're interested in. So let's just quickly check in our developers tools. What are those text box? Okay, so the first one is an input. This is very important that you find out the element that is clickable for a text box. If you find an element that you cannot click in, you will not be able to input text. And make sure that the type that you're clicking is a text. We're going to see in the next section how we're going to press buttons and not only use the return key to enter text in this text box. Okay, so what we're going to do is that in this case, instead of using the find element by name from our WebDriver, we're going to use something called find element by XPath. And what does this mean is a syntax or a language for finding element on the web page using XML path expression. So we're going to have basically a tag name, which in this case would be input. We're going to have a attribute that in this case is going to be the ID. And we're going to have a value for the attribute. And for the value, we're just going to tell our program to search for an ID that starts with job search box keyword. And we're going to do the same for the location. We're just going to tell the program to find an ID that starts with job search box location. So let's see how we would do this in the code. So we're going to do similar approach as before. So introduce our keyword and location and hit enter. Let's call this search keyword self.driver.find element by XPath. And we're going to say input starts with ID, and the ID was jobs search box keyword. And the next part that we're going to do is the same. We're going to clear up that box so we could enable it, clear, and we will send our keyword, send keys, self.keywords. And we're just going to do the same for the location. So I'm just basically going to copy this and just quickly change keyword for location. 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 And here we're just gonna put location. Okay, so let's just try this out and see what happens. Okay, so we log in, we click in the jobs. Okay, so we're gonna have an error here. And this is basically saying that it's not finding the element for one reason. It takes time to load the web page, so you should give some time to the testing to realize that the elements are being loaded properly. And with this, I like to use a function from Python that is called time. So what I do here is I import time and I just put some time in between the steps. So let's put it to 5 and let's just give it some time in between finding the elements as well here. Let's just do that. And maybe here too. The number corresponds of the numbers of seconds that you're letting the program sleep for a while and wait until you can proceed for the next action. So now we have to include the hit enter. So we're just going to say search location.send keys self keys.return. Okay, so let's try that out and see if it works. Super. So now we are into our page with our desired job offer and our desired location. And that's about it for this tutorial. So in the next section, I will introduce how to filter a bit more this job offers and how to apply for each of the offers, or how to select them, how to find them, how to select them, and what we have to do for applying for the job positions. So I hope you like this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. Subscribe if you like it, and just a reminder, you have all the links in the description. Thank you.